When I saw Clinton trending, my heart swelled. I thought that Hillary had announced her 2020 run. Now, I don't believe that Hillary Clinton will run for president in 2020. That's something that some people like H.A. Goodman will say that. I don't think she's running. But I did see the Clintons trending the other day with the Epstein Clinton body count and Clinton's this, because Bill Clinton did go to Epstein's private island they call Pedo Island, and he did fly on his plane. And of course they'll try to tie it to Orange Man. They'll try to tie it to Donald Trump, the president of the United States, by saying, oh, well, he knew him 15 years ago when he traveled on his brother's plane and blah, blah, blah. Really, I don't like to get between the two sides, the Democrat and Republican echo chambers and the sort of media macro simulation, the narratives. I like to watch, and I don't want to get too involved in, oh, Donald Trump killed Jeffrey Epstein. Hillary Clinton killed Jeffrey Epstein. Oh my God. Like it's one or the other. It can't be. And there's like, who else could it be? Could it have been Jeffrey Epstein? Very possibly. But we never know because we don't have the footage. And nowadays, when we have WikiLeaks and all these other groups dropping leaks back and forth, we have sort of a peek behind the curtain, as it were, more transparency than we used to. You know, you used to be able to soar a media narrative over the public's head and just say, look up at the stars, look and behold, and that's it. They would largely believe it. And people, anybody that had a contrary position on whatever story it was, would be a conspiracy theorist. Oh my God, they're a conspiracy theorist. But sometimes you wait long enough on those conspiracy theories and they do become conspiracy fact. So it's rather interesting the way that the public perception is, like how you know, I actually wanted to say as well that I had an interview with Ben Goldstein. Ben Goldstein interviewed me the other day, so you can definitely check that out in the description below. I'll include a link for that interview on his channel. And we were talking about how, and I made this analogy. Now, analogies are normally bad for persuading, but of course, making an analogy to describe a system makes sense. So I said, well, we're in a situation, notably when they're talking about, whenever the media cycles back around to white supremacy, or white nationalism, or there's KKK and neo-Nazi members on every corner. It's almost, people start to believe that narrative. Now, there are still malevolent otherists. There are white supremacists, there are black supremacists, there are all kinds of people. There are the anti-white identitarians out there of Antifa, and the disciples of the modern religion of social justice. They are out there spreading racism and generally spreading hate, although they have an altruistic lens. They try to frame it as egalitarian, but of course, you know, again, it's all about otherism, may it be altruistic or malevolent. But of course, if they spread that it's all about the white supremacists, they're the Satan, they're the thing we should be morally panicked about, as moral panic is a modern religion. So if everybody, about 70% of the people, hear this story that, you know, white supremacy is on the, ramping up, and again, white nationalism, the ethno-state, these things are out there, but it's a question of to what degree. Like, have you run into a white supremacist on the street? Somebody that just says the race of white Caucasian people is better than other people. Do you hear that? If you hear that, leave me a comment below with your thoughts on what you've seen and heard in the real world involving these things. But largely my exposure to it has been through the news when they talk about it. And if everybody's following this narrative, it's like if they started to say, you know, whether it's true or not, there's some truth to it. I think Tucker Carlson said it was a hoax. Tucker Carlson said it was a hoax, which I think is a bit of an exaggeration, but it's still not as prevalent as the news would have us believe. You know, they're reporting on it constantly. Of course, until Epstein offed himself or didn't off himself. You know, this is how the media cycle goes. It just goes in a circle. But if they were to convince us, say, for example, that frogs were pink, Frogs are pink, they'd say. And they'd repeat that message again and again, put it through our neural pathways, let our confirmation bias, upon hearing it from, an institutional source, a trusted source, CNN, Fox News. If you trust those two, I don't know what to tell you. But again, if you're listening to the news and you trust your sources, you'll hear that, frogs are pink. So if you keep on hearing that again and again, when someone comes in and says, wait a second, frogs are green. Frogs are green. You listen to them, and if you've been enraptured, just as some people have been enraptured with Orange Man Hitler, or just the general, there are all these white supremacists that are Republicans, and they're always only Republicans. They're never Democrats. There's never any racism. The Democrats are always perfect saints. That narrative, if you hear that again and again, it just becomes accepted. And your cognitive dissonance muscle doesn't get worked out, it gets atrophied, and you start to just reject anybody that says, well, the news might not have it right. They might be over-reporting this issue. But, who's more credible? Your friend that says that frogs are green? Or the news, which is a bunch of experts, academics, people that have experience with business and state and entertainment that are, they're your trusted voices. They're the ones you come home to every night. You come home to Rachel Maddow, and you listen to her voice, and just when she says something, it has the right amount of veracity. It has the truth. The truth comes off of her lips, especially when she's talking about Russia. These trusted pundits. But again, some people are living in that macro simulation. They're in the echo chamber where, they know what's outside, that's wrong think. What's inside is right think. And if they just listen to their media sources, to the voices they trust, they cast out anybody that goes against the narrative as a sexist or a racist or bigot, misogynist, anti-humanist, otherist, whatever it might be that floats their boat and casts the light of Satan on these other individuals, makes them deplorable, as it were. If they cast that out and they stay inside that echo chamber, well, that's their choice. I don't mean to judge, but you might not be getting the full picture. You might not be getting the full reality. If you just listen to Breitbart, or if you just listen to Huffington Post, you need to hear both. You need to listen to both and come to your own conclusions from there. That's the scientific way. So, Clinton. She will not be running for president in 2020. That ship sailed at least 3 times. The 2000 primary, the 2008 primary, the 2016 general. Yeah, I don't think 4th time is the charm for Hillary Clinton.